loading snacks.
What it do, snackers, snackettes, and snackexes? Your boy Gage is in the building along with the homie Jokes.
Yo, yo.
Double Yo's for your health. You are now tuned in to Loading Snacks Weekly, where we get together once a week and we talk about things that are happening in pop culture. And today we're struggling with the voice a little bit, but we're going to be just fine. Today we're going to talk about Xbox's newly announced Project Helix. We're going to talk about PlayStation deciding maybe that they're pulling out of PC ports.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about Blerdcon. Of course, we had a blast this weekend. And then we're going to discuss my top 5 females from the DC Comics universe. But before we do that, Jokes has a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
So he will get our website up, loadingsnacks.com. Make it easy for you to go there, follow us, check out, see what we got going on. And having done that, it's now time for the 619 Patreon Hall of Fame.
Yes, so let's shout out our top tier patrons, starting with Anthony Cunningham, Marcus Houston, Susan Dortch, Tyrone Carson, Meticulous Skin, Alex Lee, Ellis Mbe, and Kermit Ferguson. Thank you very much. We truly, truly appreciate it.
We truly, truly do. And while it's too late for you to get into the Patreon Hall of Fame, you can still support us on Patreon. So by all means, check us out on Patreon. We like to upload things there that don't go anywhere else. So you get some exclusive content. And you get a lot of the content that we drop early. So if you can, go there, support us. Helps us keep doing what we're doing. Now, it is time for hashtag WHHW, aka What Had Happened Was, which of course is last week's news. Without any further ado, Jokes, hook me up.
Number 1.
You know, Jokes. There's been a lot of talk about what Microsoft's next box is going to be like. We had a good long conversation last week about the changeover, Asha Sharma coming in, Phil being out, Sarah Bond being out, and knowing that there was talk of a new console on horizon. One of Asha's main things when she came in was, we're going to move to button like Xbox first. That seemed to mean back to console. Maybe means back to exclusives. We'll see how that plays and pans out. But they announced Project Helix. Did you see this, Jokes?
I did see this.
What did you learn about Project Helix, if anything?
A couple of small things that, it's potentially going to run Xbox and PC games. Thought that was very interesting. Pretty much essentially making it a PC for better terms, which it kind of, in a sense, already actually is on there for it. They have a code name for the new AMD chipset that is supposed to be in there for it. I know it's supposed to utilize like whatever their latest technology, whatever that may be. Could be something we don't even really know what it is just yet on there for it. So nothing too crazy other than that. It's possible it's going to have the ability to just run Windows on the device potentially, which kind of would make sense for why you can, play PC games, potentially be able to have other launchers available on it. Obviously, they have, all some of these other companies under the banner now that they have a lot of the PC side that as of right now, you really can't do anything on the Xbox with. So very interesting, but nothing, that's kind of like, I think, the overarching stuff that they really went into. I didn't go super deep into it, so you may have a couple more tidbits that were on the list for it.
Yeah, I mean, what's
up?
going on, fam? So Asha put out a tweet last week. It said, great start to the morning with Team Xbox, where we talked about our commitment to the return of Xbox, including Project Helix, the code name for our next generation console. Now look, Does that mean we're getting a console this year?
I don't know about that.
I feel like it's not likely,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I had to wager, I would guess that maybe we get a reveal of the box, what it's going to look like, or something like that. Like, I think Summer Games Fest might be too early,
Mm-hmm.
right? But Game Awards,
I
which
think
is
it's
where we
about right.
got the reveal of the series console for the first time, um, could be where we see it. And if we see it then, we could either be looking at a run up to the end of 2027.
Mm-hmm.
There's a possibility we could be looking at early 2027. But I'm going to tell you what, there is a part of me that believes that Microsoft wants this box out in time for Grand Theft Auto 6.
I I kind of agree with that.
Because here's the thing. Right now, if they don't get this new box out in time for that, okay, then the best place to play Grand Theft Auto 6 is absolutely going to be PlayStation 5. Period. Now, I don't know if you saw when Resident Evil Requiem dropped last week.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of talk on the PlayStation side about their PSSR, which is like their version of basically an upscaler, right? It
Mm-hmm.
it, it fills in frames and makes the content look way better. Or at least that's what it was supposed to do. And it hasn't really been great. But they have essentially unveiled what we'll call PSSR 2.0. And it
Okay.
is running on the new Resident Evil Requiem. And for all intents and purposes, like Digital Foundry is like, this is a game changer. Right? So like if
Okay.
they have that and it's locked in now already, then certainly by the time Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, they should have that ready to go. And right now, if Microsoft wants to be able to compete, you're already in a losing battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to a console, quote unquote, that essentially will be a PC under your TV that plays Xbox games but also has a Steam launcher. Well, Grand Theft Auto never comes out on PC day and date. It's always at least a year out, right? So the best way to play is going to be a PlayStation 5 Pro
Pro.
unless this box makes it out. And I if I'm Satya Nadella and I'm Asha Sharma, I'm with that team going, I need everything you got behind this so we can get it out, have a decent price point on it, so
Mm-hmm.
that we can market it along with what is easily going to be the biggest game
Biggest game.
release, not just of this year, but of the last 20 years, possibly of the next 10 to 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, look, if they're smart and if they can do it, like if obviously
Right.
all the chips have to fall into place or whatever. There's a scarcity on chips because of
Mm-hmm.
everything that's going on with AI.
AI and everything. Yep.
But I'm banking that at this point, I mean, look, they've been talking about it already since last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we've known that something has been in the work since prior to that. Like as soon as they finish one, they're working on the next one. So like we get that. The announcement with AMD has happened a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, here we go. You know what I mean? Like I'm imagining they want this out. I'm beginning to think, right, that if they really want to try to get out in that time frame, which again makes sense to me, we will see this box by
Summer Game
Summer
Fest
Game
at that
Fest.
point. Mm-hmm.
We'll see it by Summer Game Fest. We'll know pre-orders. We'll have a price point. I'm gonna say no later than August. What's the release date? October, November. It's like
November is gonna. Well, as of right now, Grand Theft is supposed to come out in November. So, I mean, if we can get that bad boy
so. I'm
out,
thinking the box is out by October.
October.
Pre-orders by price and pre-orders in by August. System out by October.
I mean, it'd be
That's
crazy if they can. Hey, listen, if Grand Theft can stick to their release day, and
I
they
don't think they
could,
push it back again.
I could see that
I
if
don't.
they could somehow simultaneously release that box alongside Grand Theft, like the same day would be absolutely insane. But Yeah, like you said, to get as
I mean,
close
look,
as
realistically,
possible.
right? Right now, PlayStation 5 Pro is what, $800?
$800.
It's $800. So if this brand new Xbox comes in at 900, let's say it's not 1,000. If they can come in at 900, because it wouldn't surprise me if PlayStation has to do another price jump
Mm-hmm.
between now and then. If that's the case, I think that's what we're looking at. I think that's exactly what we're looking at, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. Especially the way you have people who are like, the way that like her Twitter, her ex has been going off with
X.
people like, yo, we want exclusives, we want blah 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 back, we're trying to get da da da, and starting to feel like there's an opportunity for them to see those kinds of things. Like there are people who are like, I will do this, and there are people who
Mm-hmm.
will buy that box, especially with Valve having to push back their box,
Mm-hmm.
being the new Steam box. All right, well then, if they're pushing that back, if this box does have exclusives and it still plays PC games and you can open other options on it, it's gonna be a no-brainer. Like there's
100%.
just no two ways about it. Like it'll be a no-brainer. Um, it might mean that Sony almost has no choice but to do the same thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it
I
could
agree.
be, it could be that.
It's
And
just a matter of how long they
even,
decide to drag their feet with doing that. Like, because
yeah,
Sony
but
will.
I don't imagine. Look, Mark Cerny's a smart dude. You know what I mean? Um, I think it's more of a matter of whether or not we have a lot of talks about the the talking heads at Microsoft, because they're so much more front facing, Satya Nadella and like all those people or whatever. When you talk
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft as opposed to Xbox, when you talk PlayStation, we don't really talk very often about the figureheads, the talking heads at Sony, and
Mm-hmm.
where they are in terms of what PlayStation brings to the table and how much money there really is on the table and what they really want from them as a corporation. Like Sony is a huge corporation that has many, many divisions. And the likelihood that somebody's going, hey, we might need to get back. Even if, look, if the next PlayStation is called a PlayStation Vio,
Yeah. Hey, listen, that's
like
how they
act like
resurrect the
Sony didn't used
Vio.
to build PCs. Like we're not, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But if they do, the difference is that if Sony does that, then they either have to go with some sort of a Linux thing. They got to deal with
Mm-hmm.
possibly something Google, like an Android kind of thing, or they're gonna have to run a Windows kernel on it, which is what all Vios did. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
they were all Windows PCs. So like if Sony is gonna compete and they're gonna do something that is a PC slash a PlayStation that
Mm-hmm.
still has PlayStation exclusives, they're gonna have to get in bed with somebody else that's gonna have
Yeah.
to front that, or they got to come up with their own OS, and that OS has to work across everything. You know what I mean? Yeah, that face you're making, for those of y'all who are listening to this and not watching it, it's a pretty ugly face, dog. It's the face of, I don't know about Sony doing that. That's really what. And I be real. I don't. They're not wrong. You're not wrong. Jokes, like there's something to be said for what that would really mean. I'm very interested to see what happens tomorrow. So GDC is happening this week,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a discussion that Xbox is having about Project Helix at GDC tomorrow. So
Ooh,
I'll be
that could be
very interested
crazy.
to see what news comes out of it. Again, it's for developers and so forth, but that's who's important,
Yeah.
right? Is
They
getting
gotta know.
developers
They
on your
gotta know.
side.
Listen,
And
here's the power you working with. Like dev kits. Like obviously, if we're gonna push for something like, hey, we're gonna announce it at Summer Game Fest to get it out before the end of the year. Them dev kits gotta go out damn near ASAP
but you
when
know
they
what's
start doing.
crazy is that, I mean, what kind of dev kit do you use to make a game for PC?
Oh, PC.
So like if you're literally saying like it's an Xbox, but it's a PC.
Yeah,
It runs
they
the
just need the
Xbox kernel.
specs.
You know what I mean?
They
Like,
essentially just need the specs and be like, hey, some of these things you may not be able to, obviously, like, the custom GPU and CPU thing that they may be playing. But if they can say, hey, if you can at least utilize A, B, and C, this is going to get you like 80% of the way there. And
So
then
much when
once
so
you,
much of what you're talking about is making it easier for developers to develop one time
mm-hmm,
and just put your stuff out. That's what that is. Like you like why like as a company, if you're Xbox, why are you spending money making dev kits and sending dev kits out
when
to
you could just
teams
tell them,
and being worried about specs getting out and stuff leaking and NDAs and whatever else, when really you can save that money and just be like, look, bro, it's a PC. Here's what the specs are going to be. You know what I'm saying? Make your game. And then here's what I need. Like, just the idea that that's a possibility. I don't know for a
mm-hmm,
fact that that's what it is, right? But
right,
like the idea that that's a possibility could be such a game changer.
mm-hmm,
We'll see.
yeah. And with
I
some of these
remain
games, like,
cautiously optimistic.
I feel you. And with some of these games that are potential, like, obviously, Grand Theft being the biggest out of all of them, you know, another test, uh, Assassin's Creed, just, they officially, announced the Black Flag Resynced, like the remake of
Yeah.
Black Flag. That
Yeah.
has a potential of being another game that could definitely test the powers of what the box can do, especially if they expand things out. Like, I had that whole run through with Assassin's Creed, like certain ones that Black Flag was one of those, for whatever reason, I didn't fall in love with it originally, but replayed it, fell in love with it. I'm like, that's got some super potential on that box. But it just depends on the time frame. And then once you get that time frame out, this company's going to need to know what they can do, and so they can start putting out some of these games on it.
I mean, look, there are definitely some things that I want checked off
Mm-hmm.
on the like new console list. Like, I would love for there to be either modular options in terms of what kind of hard drive size you get in it.
Agreed.
Give me the box, let me buy the hard drive stuff separately, or you know what I'm saying, whatever. Like, that is literally one of the best things about a PlayStation 5 and was about the PlayStation 4 as well. Like, being able to just
Buy your own
buy
M.2
PC,
and pop
you
that
know what I
zone
mean? Buy
open.
buy PC hard, and just add more. Like, that is a thing that I feel like needs to happen. Or I need to be able to hook up a USB
A
3
normal
or Gen
external and
4
be
or
able to run
whatever and
things
just
off of it.
let it rock. So like those kinds of things, that's really probably the biggest thing, is that like allowing me that I don't need a disk drive.
Mm-hmm.
I've used my disk drive like 4 times to watch DVDs because I
There,
had
you
no
can't
internet.
stream whatever.
You know what I'm saying, or something. Yeah, like that was it. Um, so I don't need that. I don't really want that. Um, and I don't think they'll have it, but they could. Um, but like yeah, when I really think about what I want to have in it, like look, again, to be able to play my library across whatever, if something doesn't happen to drop, you know, again, possibly some PlayStation titles. Speaking of which, hook me up.
Number two.
So look, bro, we talked for a long time again about PlayStation and them finally kind of going away from the exclusive route and moving into dropping PC ports.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that there was a lot of money to be made in PC ports and so forth, and um, there was an audience that they just weren't reaching because there just are people who just aren't ever going to buy a console, just not their thing. Um, having said that, right now this is not confirmed, but the rumors are that PlayStation is considering pulling out of PC ports specifically for their single player titles. Um, something that is a multiplayer title makes more sense for it to be on PC or
Everything.
what have you, but they seem to want to go away from PC ports for games like God of War, Ghost of Tsushima. Apparently, they have decided not to do a Ghost of Yote PC port.
Release.
Um, and there's a lot of speculation. Some of it is about the possibility of those titles just not selling well on PC, which I'm not totally sure is the case. Um, Look, I think the reality of it is they, not unlike what Microsoft is saying, like they want to go back to a certain level of exclusivity. Um, and I think that in the same way, there are a lot of people that were upset about games like Halo and Gears coming to PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the idea of God of War being anywhere besides a PlayStation bothers people. Like it makes people mad, for whatever
It's
reason.
funny.
Like
So
it just
funny.
does, right? Um, Exclusivity always feels good to the people who own that box and that box alone. Like it just, you know what I mean? Um, and in some cases, it can be a winning strategy when your game plan, your business plan is we got to sell more boxes. So if you want to sell more PlayStations, you are gonna need some exclusive content. Like you're gonna need a reason. Um, and what I figure is, even though PlayStation 5s are selling incredibly well,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that they are selling incredibly well compared to Xboxes, not necessarily compared to Switch 2s. But I think they may be losing some of that battle to PCs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think where that's happening is, in a lot of cases, in the younger audience. So I think a lot of the younger audience is graduating from Switches
Mm-hmm.
and Switch 2s directly into PC gaming because they are watching people stream Twitch and so forth, and they are streaming on PC.
Mm-hmm.
So many kids just want to stream. So not
That's it.
only is it that the games that those kids want to play are not PlayStation exclusives to begin with, they are games that are available on PC, right? They might also be available on PlayStation, but they're not exclusive. They're not God of War. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're not those games. They're Fortnite. They're Roblox. Um, they're Minecraft. You know what I mean? For that matter, which, you know, they're Zenless Zone Zero. They are, you know what I mean? There are countless games, even if they're like Capcom releases, a
Mm-hmm.
Monster Hunter or something like that, that's got a PC port or whatever. Like streamers are playing those games on PC. And I'm talking to parents and grandparents on a relatively regular basis that are telling me that like their 7 and 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds are not asking for PlayStations. They're not asking for Xboxes. They're
As for them
asking for
PC
PCs.
parts.
They're asking for gaming laptops or gaming PCs. That's what they're asking for. They're not asking for. And the barrier for entry when trying to get into tech and stuff like that was not necessarily more difficult than it is now, but like, a console was pretty simple. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's two cords. You hook one cord up and the
Got your
power cord
power,
into the back of it, and hook one to
and
the
you got
TV
your
and one to power,
HDMI, and you
and then you
good,
plug in your controller, and the
and you're
controller has
good.
like 10
If you want to
buttons.
hook
Like
up to an
that's it,
Ethernet, cool. That's one extra thing, but it's like, depending
maybe,
on the house you're
right?
putting it in, that may not even be a thing.
But these kids now have grown up. Like they've only ever known touchscreens. They've
Yep.
only ever known PCs. They understand keys. And these kids can't type and still type faster than people who can type. Like they don't have QWERTY key. You know what I mean? So for them, there's not a difficulty in terms of barrier of entry playing on a laptop or a PC compared to doing it on a console. That I want it to be super easy and just deal with it once or whatever isn't really a thing for them. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was for us or for your
Mm-hmm.
generation. And so now, these kids know how to do all of that. They know how to get into the Wi-Fi and put in
They
Wi-Fi
do.
codes and like they just it's natural for them. So, and the cost Now, if you want to get into a gaming PC or a relatively decent laptop or something like that,
It's not too
now
bad.
with what a console costs,
It really is not that bad.
you kind of might as well, right? And for parents, even if it's a gaming PC, parents and grandparents can feel better about making that kind of a purchase because it
Hmm.
is still a thing they can surf the web on and can do homework on and
Homework and
can
stuff.
attend school when there are snow days because they do it virtually or whatever. So it is, even if they're spending a bit more money, it is something that is
You get that
multifaceted
multi-purpose. Yep.
and fit. You know what I mean? So now PlayStation's up against that, let alone Microsoft being like, we're just gonna make the next Xbox a PC. You know what I mean? Like,
And which makes perfect sense.
so
It's honestly, it's already like technically, it's really like 70% of the way there.
I
Like
mean, it
literally a
was
slight.
70% of the way there when they did the first Xbox, to be real
Mhm.
with you. So, I mean, that joint was a 733, you know, megahertz PC then. So, I, at this point, PlayStation looking at the idea of going back to exclusivity or holding their single player titles as exclusive to their console makes sense if you want to be able to sell boxes.
Mhm.
Right? If you just know you need to put your, and you got to put some money into making sure that you spent the money to secure the chips that you need because the chips are so scarce. We got to secure the chips so we can build these boxes, which means we got to sell these boxes. So how are
Mhm.
we going to sell these boxes? Well, we need exclusives. We need stuff that's not going to be playable anywhere else but
But
here.
on here.
And console players be damned if they going to play a PlayStation title on an Xbox because that Xbox claims it's a PC. They not having it. They
They
not having
go. It's so funny.
I mean, business wise, it makes a lot of sense unless you
Hmm.
end up losing out because you can't sell the boxes in the long run because you're not. But because you're not. The games don't pull in enough people who want to
Right.
spend the money to just get. You know what I mean? But I mean, do you think there's any reality to that? Do you think PlayStation is going away from?
I think it's a possibility. We've seen them. There's a chance they could do it and then backtrack. Like as a business standpoint of trying to get your consoles out there, I get it. I get why you would want to keep those titles on there, but at the same time, it's kind of like if it's not hurting you, like the PC is a good place to put your stuff. Like obviously, you want the PlayStation Pro 5 Pro to be able to be this powerful machine that is going to perform and outdo everything else, but realistically, like when you have a PC, you can easily trump the performance of what the PlayStation 5 can do in a heartbeat. Depending on the specs, the parts, the things that you go to configure it, which can make some of their games look even better. Which to me is a good thing when you are able to utilize that. But then at the same time, yeah, someone is not buying a PS5 Pro to now play God of War,
Yeah,
which
you got to remember again that like Steam is making a hard, like Valve
mm,
is making a hard play for the space under your TV for your living
mm,
room, and like deciding like and announcing that they're putting out their own like console is like, okay, now you got Microsoft doing the same thing to deal with. You have Steam, who already has a really really strong foothold already in the PC space, and if they get a hold of people underneath the TV, PlayStation got a fight on their hands that
mm,
now it's a multifaceted fight that they got to be able to fend off from multiple directions. And like if you've been putting your, because also again, if you've been putting your games on Steam,
mm,
and they have, right, that means that if you just buy a Steam box, you'll be able to play those
play
PlayStation
those in here.
exclusive titles on your TV, which
Mm,
for them it has been, well, it's not like you can hook up your laptop or your PC to a
right
television,
to a
but
TV.
who's
Right.
really doing that? Right. So it doesn't really hurt us in the long run to also sell our games on PC like a year after we've already had them on console, because these aren't people who are playing on their TV. These
Mm,
are PC players and they're very different. Well, now you have somebody who has the PC group by the jugular going, let me take your jugular and drag you underneath the TV.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And give you that experience there, because so many people who do have gaming PCs actually don't use those PCs for anything other than gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So if they could do it on the biggest, nicest screen they have in the house, chances
Why
are,
wouldn't you?
yeah. So that's another place where like PlayStation's got to be able to defend themselves from. And I don't know, bro. Like I don't know
Uh-huh.
how you do it unless you go back to exclusives, and you have exclusives that are the kind of exclusives that will sell systems.
Yep.
Like they gotta sell systems. So, we'll see, man. And like having somebody new at the helm at Xbox could be like, y'all not getting Call of Duty.
Right.
I don't care what y'all say. Y'all not getting Call of Duty. Like they could
They can
pull the
shut
plug
that
on
down.
that.
That'd be
You know what I
crazy.
mean?
It would be crazy, but you know what? It wouldn't be a surprise. Like obviously, and if they do something like that, this is where PlayStation needs to lean back in. Like they had some decent first person shooters on the Call of Duty side that maybe the time to start re-looking into that, because at any given time Microsoft could pull that rug. I don't think they
If
will.
Call of Duty multiplayer was on everything, and I mean like the free to play Call of Duty
Mm-hmm.
multiplayer. I don't mean the multiplayer that comes with the like weirdly separately with the. It's a lot. It's way. The other thing is it's way too confusing, and I think that's part of what the issue with
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty is. Like I don't think Call of Duty's not selling because people don't like Black Ops 7 or whatever. I think it's not selling because people buy it for the multiplayer, and
Mm-hmm.
there's free multiplayer already for Call. Like, so why would you? It doesn't make a lot of sense. They got to figure that out. But there's a way for them to make something be available on PlayStation that isn't the thing, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. And I it makes sense to me, excuse me, if they decide to try going back to exclusivity. Um, but we'll see what happens.
Cool.
Hook me up.
Actually, before I hook you up,
What you got?
gotta acknowledge some people in the chat because
Let's do it. Let's
people
do
been
it.
talking. So
What up,
we
guy?
want to make sure that folks know that we know they there.
What's going on, Anna?
Heather in the building as well too.
Heather, so good to see you virtually after having seen you this weekend. Awesome.
But now,
Hook me up.
Number 3.
Ooh, the Geek Nick, bro.
Ew.
Blerdcon 2026 happened this past weekend. It's just important that we take a moment to acknowledge it. 9 years running, 9 years of strong growth as a convention.
Mm-hmm.
How was Blerdcon for you, Jokes?
Blerdcon was epic. Like, expected no less than us going in there. It was a great time, as usual. It's always great seeing people that we haven't seen in a while. And on the flip side, it's always great meeting new people there. As you say, like the growth, like every year we go in here, there's more and there's more people. But best part about it, everybody is in there having a great time. There's something in there for everybody. Food trucks were out in full force. I think some of the new, it was a few new ones that weren't there previously. I think kind of underestimated what Blerdcon was going to bring to the table.
Happens every year.
And I mean, it's a good bad problem to have, because it's like good, you're selling your stuff out, but bad because it's like, damn, we got to go back to home base and reload stuff once again. But it was a great time. We got to do some stuff that we hadn't done in the past. Talking to food truck vendor, being able to interview, talk about like hibachi. You guys will see that video coming soon. Just being able to go in. Obviously, you got a chance to sit down with Redman. Candace just like popped up. Like looking forward to that Redman interview. Uh, it's
It's
just
coming.
the atmosphere, the vibe, everything about Blerdcon is just is. Even though this one is not necessarily considered to be like the reunion or like the family reunion, it still feels like that every single year we go. And then on top of it, you just add whatever the theme is going to be, and then that just adds on another layer to it. But like, listen, Blur, like you expect the greatness out of it, and then you get in there, and then it's just like you still get elevated a little bit more than what you're expecting. But as usual, great time all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, Blerdcon is always great. We always have a really good time there. Um, it is it's one of those things that you can't really put. Um, it's hard to explain what the experience is like to somebody who hasn't been.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's very difficult, and like the only way you can really explain it is like I think saying it's a 3-day party is a misnomer because it's not really that. It really is like going to like a college homecoming. Um, with seeing old friends and meeting new people, and the food trucks make it feel like a bit of a cookout, and
Mm-hmm.
the cars being there is a little bit of a car show. There's a barber shop. There's vendors of all shapes and sizes. There's late night activities for the 21 and up. Everything from burlesque shows to anime, hentai. There's stuff for kids during the day, face painting, and like there's
Mm-hmm.
just the maid cafe, the cosplay contests, it's so easy to miss things there because there's so
Mm-hmm.
much happening literally 24 hours a day from the moment they get started. And the only way you can really catch everything for a portion of it, I think, is to be a VIP and go a day early where all the stuff they do,
You
like the
can
first
get
day
some
on
of the access
Thursday,
before.
is all VIP. And like, yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just, um, it's really hard to quantify what it's like to see black and brown people having a great time and getting along for 3 or 4 days straight
Yeah.
with like zero issues. And I'll be honest, by like Sunday, people are like tired and a little on edge. Like it gets it gets a little tricky on Sunday, but it's never bad, man. It's and people are squeezed. Like they will
Yeah.
squeeze like 15 people into an elevator to go up and go down, and the
Listen,
elevator's gonna
everybody
stop
cool
on
with it.
every
It's
floor,
like
and
you make that space. Like,
somebody's
come on.
leaning against the buttons. You hear the buzzer and the fire alarm going off the whole time in the elevator because people are leaning on it because they just be in there together, just
Mm-hmm.
talking, having a good time, and taking pictures, and just it really is like maybe there's another con like it, but there ain't one over here like it. There's not one, you know what I mean, close that's really like it. Because even if you take a 24/7 convention like a Magfest
Mm-hmm.
or a Katsucon, the vibe is so different because it's us. Because we
Mm-hmm.
don't, because there's music everywhere. It
Everywhere.
doesn't matter where you go. It's like it's the calm before the storm is like 10 a.m. Friday morning. But by like 12, it's popping. There's DJs outside. The food trucks had their own music individually sometimes. There's music coming from the basement vibing all the way up through the main floor.
Mm-hmm.
There's a separate DJ on the second floor. There's multiple people playing music in the vendor space when you go in there. Like it's just you can't go anywhere without rhythm being somewhere. Like it
Mm-hmm.
changes the outlook, the attitude, the feeling, the people. I really think that the music at Blerdcon is such a key part of what the convention feels like,
Mm-hmm.
because even though anywhere else it's 24 hours, you will hear the noise of people talking,
Yeah,
laughing, having a good time, playing video games or something like that. It's not the same as having, you know, really good music of all kinds, soca music, and having like just
everything.
line dance
And
music and
blending it all, like
yeah,
take it
go-go
and
playing
blending and
somewhere.
doing it's
Baltimore, like, Miami booty bass, Baltimore
the
club,
house
Jersey
music, the
club, like
club
just
music, and everything going on. It's just such an
like
accepting experience to go in. Like
you
everything.
can walk out of the after party where the DJs are crushing and there's like 400, 500 people in the room. And when you walk outside, the DJ's
Oh,
crushing and it's like 500 people
485
out there
people
too. Like
outside still.
you walk out of an after party into another
Into a
party. Like
party.
it's stupid. Like it's just, then you get on the escalator, you go upstairs, and guess what? You're still in a party. Like it's so consistent, so nonstop. And there are tons of people who aren't even close to the parties. They're over in panels laughing and having a good time, starting karaoke at 12:30 at night. They doing, like it's just there really isn't anything else quite like it. There just isn't. Anything else is quite like it. And with the announcement for next year, the 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 theme is slam. It's the 10-year anniversary. It's a wrestling theme. Good God.
Good. Hey,
Right? Like,
listen,
not gonna
they
pretend that
already
didn't mess all of us up
it dog it.
thinking about Sin not being able to be there next year with them announcing that was kind of crazy. As I said, the 2027
Yeah.
Blerdcon theme announcement had Joe's looking like a kid on Christmas. Let me tell you something about a kid on Christmas who won't shut up about it. I
Dog,
need that
hype.
belt. I gotta have that belt.
Yeah, listen,
I need it. I don't care how
hype
much it costs.
isn't
Tatiana
even the
looking at
word.
him in the back of his head like you better care how much it costs. Meanwhile, he like, I don't care what it costs. Tell Hilton I need that belt.
I need that joke.
Listen, he tried so bad. Listen, they was trying to figure out how to hold it. Joe's like, let me show you how to hold it. Hold it like, let me feel it for a second. It was crazy. He was like, hold it like this. And then in his head, like they don't even know how to hold the belt. He was having it. I tell you what, just let me get it. I'll show it to you. Then they wouldn't give it to him. So disappointed. So disappointed. They were like, I gotta give it back. I can't give it to you. My man wants a belt. He wants a belt real bad. Yeah, man, I'm super excited. Talking to Redman was dope. He was super cool. He's never been to a con
Mm-hmm.
before. It was the same thing with Ozzy Beats. Like we didn't get a
Mm-hmm.
chance to sit down with her, but she'd also never been to a con before. She was supposed to go
She's
to another
supposed to.
con we went to, and something happened, and she had to back
Mm-hmm.
out, scheduling conflict or something like that. But I got a chance to talk with Dr. Jason Johnson. And he set up a couple of interviews for me. Chrissy Choi and Dulce wasn't a part of Dulce Sloan was there. She was walking around, hanging out with people.
Mm-hmm.
Godfrey was there, just walking around,
Just
hanging
walking
out with
around.
people, taking pictures and talking. Like every time I turned around, he was somewhere with a group of people, just laughing and joking and whatever. Did an interview with the folks from the Chasing K Dramas podcast. Again, Chrissy Choi and Dulce Sloan. Got a chance to meet Malcolm Barrett. Like it was really, really
Yeah.
good. We had a really good time. If you're a Patreon member, there's a really good chance that the Redman interview is going up in Patreon tonight. But once we get done here, I just gotta double check it. I gotta look through it one time first, and then we'll see about making that happen. But look for that coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
Jokes. Any final thoughts on Blurcon?
Like I think we've hit like Blerdcon. It's a vibe. It's an experience. Like if for whatever reason, if you have not been to a Blerdcon, had the opportunity to, I highly recommend next year when the time comes. Even if you only manage to come through for a day, because this year the one thing they did introduce day passes, which they had not done
Well, they
previously
only
in the
did it for
past.
Saturday.
No, it was for all 3 days. They did do it for
Oh,
all
I
three
only saw
days.
Saturday, but okay.
So you would be able to possibly, if they continue that, you'd be able to do that next year as well too. But it's just a great experience overall. It's fun to be a part of. It feels like family. You're in there, like people you've never met, you've never talked to. Like you go in there and just strike up a conversation, just like you were at the family reunion, just talking about the good times or whatever it is. But it was absolutely incredible. Um, I can't wait till next year already. Like multitude of reasons. Like
I can tell you're excited because all your final thoughts are all exactly the same final thoughts I just had. So like you just at this point you can't help yourself. You're just repeating it now. It's time to shut it down. We got to move on. That is it for what had happened was. Now we need to discuss again. It's Women's History Month, so I have a list of my top 5 female characters from DC Comics. I'm gonna tell you why I did this. It's not because we did MCU last week. It's because I feel like it's not very often that I talk about DC Comics. And really how I feel about it. We talk about the shows, stuff like that sometimes or whatever, but I don't really ever dig too much into it. And I think that some of what I have as my top 5 might surprise some folks. So without any further ado, my number 5. So late. What up, Kay? You know what? You're allowed to be late tonight, Kay, because you also were partying all weekend at
yes,
Blerdcon.
yes, you were.
We know how you probably feel, so it's all good.
You're in a couple videos, okay? Got you on camera, so you gonna be in some of these pop ups that go up.
my man said maybe I don't want to be though. Maybe I don't want to.
No, dude, you having a good time, so you gonna be.
My number 5 is Poison Ivy. And now here's the thing. I think Poison Ivy is underrated. I think that Poison Ivy deserves, in a lot of ways, a lot of the fanfare that like Harley Quinn gets. She's much more threatening, technically. She's not as insane as Harley might be, but in terms of a character that is, again, much more powerful than I think gets credit for, having control of like plants and plant life and being able to control people as well if she, kisses them in some cases and things like that. Like I just think that Poison Ivy is one of my favorites. When I know that there's something that's happening and that Ivy is involved, I'm usually immediately more interested in what's happening. On that note, my number 2 is Black Canary. Now, I'm gonna tell you something about Black Canary. Black Canary probably would have been higher on my list. I really like Black Canary, and for a long time I felt like she also was one who was underrated. But we're talking about somebody who is an incredible hand-to-hand specialist, which is a thing for me, right? Then also does have her canary cry, like her actual ability, which is stronger than I think people might give credit for. I think that they maybe underplay it sometimes, but I what I like about her is that like she's so adept in terms of her hand-to-hand combat that like if she did have like superhuman strength, she'd probably be better than 95% of not just the females but the male characters as well. Like this is a person who they rely on to train other people who do have superhuman abilities like strength and speed and so forth, how to fight. Like they rely on her for that. So I think she's kind of underrated in a way, and I like that about her. Also, there's something about her and Ollie I really like. Her and Green Arrow. There's something about that just like makes it work for me. But I like her. I like her attitude. I like who she is. My number 3 is probably going to surprise some people because they might think it's a little low. My number 3 is Wonder Woman.
Oh.
Now, I want to say this sort of specifically this Wonder Woman, DC AU Wonder Woman. Like, Wonder Woman is a staple. She's one of the Trinity. So it is, it's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Like, those are the three, right? She's clearly a powerhouse. I like Wonder Woman a lot of the time, the way that she's written, a lot of the time. She, for me, falls into a lot of the same issues that I have with a Batman or a Superman, where they just kind of like write her out of stuff. Like, she just be having new powers. Like, it just, you know what I mean? Like, it just, sometimes they just do stuff with her and I just be like, come on, man. You know what I mean? And so it takes a little bit away from me for her to have like the powers of a god sometimes. Like, it just feels like they treat her like she's half has them, half doesn't. And when they feel like they really want her to have them, they give them to her, and other times they don't. I think what I like about her more than anything is that she is, I think, a really strong symbol for a lot of young women, period, like across the
Agree
board.
with that.
And I think that under most circumstances, the fights that she fights are not just about winning the battle, but they are a lot of times about women and women's place and how they're treated, how they're looked at, and her strength and perseverance and her look and all of that kind of stuff, I think, help to shape her into the kind of character that you would want to be able to point a young lady to or whatever and say, this is a character who I think you should read. And I think a lot of her storylines fall into that space. Again, in this space, on this very show, we've had a lot of talks about what I think they're doing wrong with the character and things I feel like they could do better with the character, and why certain things don't work or wouldn't work, or they struggle with certain things or whatever as far as live action is concerned. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the comic books. And in the comic books, I'm gonna probably pick her against almost anybody else. Period.
Dig it.
My number 2 is Zatanna. I feel like I keep saying this, but again, also Zatanna is another one who I feel like is very underrated. Like, extremely powerful in terms of magic. I like her involvement with like the darker side of
things.
Justice League Dark. What her skill set is like, and her growth as a character into more or less replacing her father in his skill set. Like, I think that in terms of having a character that has magic abilities that is essentially just like a human, she's basically unmatched. And I think that she's supremely underestimated, but she's one of my favorite characters. Again, if I see a story or something like that that's happening, whether it's an animated show or otherwise, Zatanna's there, I'm like automatically all in. Highly recommend y'all watch Justice League Dark. If you haven't, you should. And my number 1, it's Raven. Look, Raven, such a conflicted character. I think I love that the most about Raven. Super powerful, knows that she's super powerful, still very doubtful about her, not what her abilities are, but how she should use them and what it means for her to use them, and where that magic comes from, who her father is in Trigun, and what that means, what her place is really like in terms of the Teen Titans, and truthfully outgrowing, what that space is. I think there are so many things, so many more things that can be done with Raven as a character. But again, because she's so well written as a person, in terms of who the character is, her character strengths and her character flaws are evenly matched. And that I think makes her a character worth paying attention to. Those things also match what her power level is,
Mm-hmm.
and the kinds of things that she can do. So those are my top 5.
Not a bad list.
Female characters. Now I do have a couple of honorable mentions because I'm sure some people are like, so let me just get this out the way. Supergirl. I really, really, really like Supergirl. The only reason why Supergirl doesn't make top 5 is
Mm-hmm.
because she's Superman as a girl. And not really, but you know what I mean. Like, in terms of power set, her attitude is different from his, which is why I like her. But her power set is basically the same as what his is. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I could take it or leave it. Now, that could change. She has some really great storylines, sort of, that they messed around with like her and Galatea not really being Power
Mm-hmm.
Girl and the whole thing in like the DCAU and some of that stuff. But maybe this new James Gunn movie this summer will also help. Right now, from what I've seen from the trailers, I'm not feeling it. But I like her. Batgirl / Oracle. It's hard to look. Here's the thing about Batgirl. I like Oracle better than I like Batgirl.
Mm-hmm.
That's partially because the idea of Batgirl kind of showing up out of nowhere with gadgets,
Mm-hmm.
money, and doing the kinds of things that like Batman and Robin are doing, where like Robin gets trained by Batman. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Pick a Robin, whatever Robin, right? Gets trained by Batman to be able to do those things. And Batman has paid for and trained to do things that technically a human can't do.
Right.
Get into Batman's abilities later. But like just for her to be in that space and doing that kind of stuff feels kind of false to me. But the injury that she sustained and it forcing her into a role where she becomes like the woman in the chair
Mm-hmm.
who sees and hears all and kind of feeds him information. Like I really like Oracle as a character. And I maybe like Oracle more than Batgirl, but you kind of can't separate the two. And then Harley. Harley Quinn is again a very conflicted character, but I'm conflicted about how I feel about Harley
So,
because I feel like they don't know what to do with Harley.
do it.
And I feel like Harley's entire existence is confusing, right? Is she a good person? Is she a bad person? Does she love the Joker? Does she not? Is she like all those kinds of things? Is she someone for adult males / females? Is she someone for children? Like all of those kinds of things,
Right.
I just feel like have, unfortunately, because of the way that Harley was created, being that she was created for the Batman animated series and then became so popular that they had to put her in comic books, has kind of forced them into a situation where they didn't really have a great idea for her and how they were going to flesh her out and what it was going to be from when she created and ended up being such a popular character. And she was popular without having all that, but was so popular that they needed to kind of put that stuff together, and they kind of shoehorned it in. So while I really like Harley in a lot of ways as a character, there are a lot of things about Harley as a character and in terms of the way that she's written that I just don't really vibe with, because I often feel like they just don't know what to do with her, and I just wish that they would make a decision and stick with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And call it a day. And I don't mean in the same way that like DC will reboot the entire universe like every 6 years or whatever they've been doing recently. I just mean like as a whole, like figure it out. And I'd probably be able to get more behind that. But those are honorable mentions, and those are kind of characters I like, but why they didn't make my top 5. They'd probably be in my top 10 though.
Dig it.
Jokes, let's get ready to close the show out. Look, Awesome Con is this weekend. You can probably hear in my voice that like I'm not really ready for this, but I'll be ready
Yeah.
by. I better be. I don't have a choice. We'll make it happen. There is an Awesome Mania panel happening on Friday. Jokes, give me the deets.
So Friday the 13th, it is Friday the 13th.
My favorite day.
We will be in. I gotta pull that up that room because that room is a little weird, but
It's
it's at
204 ABC.
So I'm imagining it's one giant room. We shall see. Our good friends Ben and Mike have invited me and Marcus to join alongside them for the Awesome Mania panel. So pretty much was just going to be a discussion about wrestling. Don't know.
I might not even go, y'all. Like he might be in that
Nah,
joint by
you gonna be in there for a little bit, but we're gonna be on stage. We're gonna be talking about some wrestling. Don't know what to fully expect because, you know, Ben and Mike can do some crazy things when it comes time for it. But all I know is it's going to be a load of fun. If you guys are there on Friday, by all means, please stop by the panel. Say hi.
3:30 to 4:15.
3:30 to 4:15. Come past. Say what's up. Let's talk about some wrestling for a little bit. Let's have a good time.
Indeed. Outside of that, you will find us roaming the show floor and the halls and so forth at Awesome Con. So if you're there and you see us, by all means, come say hey. Let's take a picture together. Let's post. Let's tag each other. All of that jazz. It will be great to see people, especially ones we didn't get a chance to see.
I don't know what ring you're gonna toss me in unless you know there's going to be a ring that's going to pop up
might
somewhere.
be why it's room A, B, and C. Maybe they got a ring, Jokes, and you just gonna have to get in there and lose a belt, bro. I mean, bring a belt, lose a belt. That's exactly right. Wrestling. Yeah, so look, that pretty much wraps up the show. Looking very much forward to seeing y'all this weekend if you're gonna be at Awesome Con. Up through this weekend, continue to look at our Instagram and our YouTube for the content that we have that's coming to you from Blerdcon. We have some hilarious finish the lyrics that we asked like we did last year. Jokes already has, who's your favorite Pokemon stuff that's up and running right now and catching fire and doing really well. So if you see it and you like it, please repost it and share it. That would be awesome to have you all do. Again, the Redman interview, it's edited. I'm getting ready to watch it now, and once I look at it and feel good about it, it'll go to Patreon and probably hit for everyone else tomorrow. So if you're a Patreon member, keep your eyes peeled later tonight, early in the morning, for that to go live. But again, just continue to kind of look out for the content that's coming over the next few days. We appreciate all the support and all the love. I want to thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. Super shout out to the lurkers in the back who are just hanging and not commenting, but listening to this raspy voice today.
Appreciate nonetheless.
I appreciate y'all being with us on Tie Tuesday. I swear I'm gonna get Jokes in a tie one of these Tuesdays. I swear it's gonna happen. It's only a matter of time. Might be next week. It's only a matter of time, y'all. But I swear it's gonna happen. Jokes?
Yes, sir.
Tell the folks what I need them to know.
Remember, y'all, just because you have a well thought out plan doesn't make it a good idea.
With that, we're out. Toodles and lose.
Loading snacks.
Pipe it up. Put your wing up and down.